Imagine you're laying in bed and about to doze off, when suddenly you open your eyes and you start to see something strange. Your body's completely immobile, but you see a tall black shadow standing at the foot of your bed, staring at you with her soulless eyes. You start to panic and cry for help, but you can't move or speak, and you realize you're being held against your will by your own body.
I remember waking up and my eyes are obviously fixed because I sleep on my back. But I'm trying to move and I just can't, and I'm really confused.
Sleep paralysis occurs in every corner of the planet. In Germany, they describe these episodes as Hexendrücken, an evil enchantress that curses your dreams. In Mexico, there's a common saying, "Se me subió la muerte," or "death got on me," which describes this heavy evil weight that has been placed on you as you sleep. In Turkey, people call this Karabasan, which translates to the dark assailer, a supernatural spirit that descends upon sleepers to prey on their fears. Welcome to the Itty Bitty Horror Podcast. My name is Luis and I am your host. If you're joining us for the first time, then welcome. In this podcast, we're going to tell stories that are a little bit less known from folks from around the world. In today's episode, we'll discuss the crazy phenomenon known as sleep paralysis, or as some folks call it, night terrors. Some of the topics that we're going to be discussing today are: what is sleep paralysis and how does it happen? What does one experience during an episode? How do different cultures from around the world view sleep paralysis? What are some personal stories of this experience? And how do you cope with sleep paralysis? So join us today as we discuss In the Grip of Darkness, stories of sleep paralysis.
And it's then that I noticed in the far off corner of the room, I notice a pair of eyes, like something looking at me. And that was it.
That's my friend Z. He'll be on today talking a little bit about his own experiences with sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is when you're awake but can't move, often accompanied by hallucinations. It's brief, lasting a few minutes, and affects about 8 in 100 people. This happens when your brain wakes up from sleep, but your body stays asleep. During rapid eye movement, or REM, your body naturally becomes temporarily paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Sometimes, when you wake up suddenly, your brain remains in a state where it thinks you're still asleep, leading to a sensation of being unable to move or speak. Think of it like a small glitch between your body and brain.
I thought I was losing my mind. How could that be possible? Was that real, what I was seeing? It was a woman hanging from the ceiling, the far off corner, looking straight at me. And I looked at her and then I looked away, looked away, just right away. Right? And I was just, I don't think I've been that afraid in my life ever. That was just crazy. It's like seeing that woman look at me. It was just like, like white eyes, and I feel like I saw like gray hair and everything else was just black. It's like if she was dressed in all black, except she has gray hair and white eyes and no pupil. I couldn't move. I was going crazy trying to run away, and I was like, maybe she's coming for me. What's going on? So it's crazy.
Z is originally from India. He highlighted that the different South Asian countries and states see sleep paralysis differently. For example, in Pakistan, sleep paralysis is considered an encounter with shaitan, an evil spirit in Islam that incites humans to sin by whispering in their hearts. In Tamil culture, sleep paralysis is known as amukube, meaning the ghost that forces one down. In Nepal, especially Newari culture, it's also known as kyak, after a ghost-like figure believed to reside in the darkness under the staircase of a house. As mentioned earlier, different cultures view sleep paralysis differently. In Mexico, it is believed that when one experiences sleep paralysis, it is the spirit of the dead finding vulnerable souls to lay their bodies on top of them. This is where the saying "Se me subió la muerte" comes from. Others see it as a form of punishment or a sign of impending danger. It's often connected to folk beliefs and traditions, with remedies ranging from prayers to carrying protective amulets. Because of the strong beliefs in the supernatural and unexplained in Mexican culture, many people don't seek out medical treatment, which results in further episodes. But sometimes, these spirits can also come in the form of somebody you once knew. My mother once told me a story of when she gave birth to my youngest brother. In 1988, my mom was experiencing a troubling pregnancy, and when she went to the hospital, the doctors told her that they needed to induce labor. Once she gave birth to my brother, they took him to the NICU for observation. She was taken to a room where mothers go to recover. Now, my mom is a devout Catholic and a believer of the supernatural, so this part may be a little eerie. She says that she was in her room, trying to fall asleep, when suddenly she just woke up. But she couldn't move her body. She panicked and tried to call for a nurse, but she was unable to speak. Suddenly the fear went away, and she saw her deceased mother floating above her with her arms stretching out towards her. My mom then realized she had her newborn son in her arms, and her mother, my grandmother, was motioning for her to give her the child, almost as if she would take care of him. She started to hand over the baby, and then realized what this could have meant, and she pulled the baby back into her own chest. Her mother disappeared, and she woke up without her baby there. The next day, she was told that my brother had started to improve health-wise, and that they were ready to go home in a day or two. She truly believed if she had given my brother to my grandmother, he may not have survived the night. She says this was her only experience with sleep paralysis, but it got me thinking, is this what it was? Can one actually dream and experience the same side effects of a night terror? Is being a believer of the unknown, including faith, make you more susceptible to sleep paralysis? After one awakens from an episode, it leads to confusion and fear. But first, a quick break. Hey everybody, just wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know that we are on social media. So if you could just give us a follow, we really appreciate it. We're on Instagram at Itty Bitty Horror. We are on Twitter. We are at Itty Bitty Horror as well. And if you're on Facebook, make sure to follow and like our Facebook page at Itty Bitty Horror Podcast. Feel free to share your stories on posts, direct messages, or as a comment. And if you'd like to be a guest on the Itty Bitty Horror Podcast, send me an email to ittybittyhorror@gmail.com. Now back to the show.
This time when I woke up, it was bright daylight. I woke up, I checked my body first to make sure everything was fine. The room was fine. There's nothing on the ceiling anymore. I was just glad. I was just really, really happy. The sense of elation that I could move. My body was fine. I was healthy and I was alive. And it was just very traumatic. I think I was like, 18 or something. It's just, I've never experienced that. Never want to experience that again in my life. It was just very traumatic. I just told my parents that I had a bad dream because that's what I thought at the time it was. It was a dream. And I just chose to forget about it until a few years when, I don't know, I heard someone mention sleep paralysis and I looked it up and I was like, holy shit. That is exactly what happened to me. And it was just my brain playing tricks with me, hopefully. Never happened to me again. I hope it never happens ever again.
I've also experienced this as well. Over the course of my early to mid-20s, it was almost a nightly occurrence. The thing is, you never really get used to it, but I do remember two specific incidents very clearly. The first one is the one that has been ingrained in my mind since it first happened. I was attending the local college in my hometown of Laredo, and had just left class and got home, and decided to take a nap. I remember being so tired, and I dozed off pretty quickly. I dreamt I was in a kayak with my mother. We were both just floating on the Rio Grande, and there were almost jungle-like trees surrounding us. It was actually really beautiful. I suddenly woke up and was unable to move. I remember seeing the thin blanket that was covering my body start to flow as if there was a small gust of wind under the sheets. I felt an eerie presence, and out of nowhere, I saw these footprints starting to appear on my sheets as if a small child was walking towards me. I saw the prints move from the foot of the bed towards my legs, then my hips, then it was right next to me. I remember hearing a low rumbling sound that started to increase as this being got near me. As it arrived towards me, I started to feel a tight squeeze around my neck. The pressure was intense, but I could still breathe. I didn't know what was going on. but I do remember being scared and thinking, is this how I die? Keep in mind, I really wasn't aware what sleep paralysis was, so to me, it was proof of something paranormal, but I really wouldn't be able to tell anyone because it seemed like my time was up. Then I let go of my neck, and I was able to get up from my bed. I slapped myself a couple of times to really make sure I was awake. I was just confused as you expect. I didn't know what to make of this, but I remember looking this up online and saw plenty of similar stories being shared by folks that needed to talk about this, but they didn't know how to talk about it. The other one that was significant for me was when I was asleep on my couch in my parents' living room. I don't remember much of the dream, but the same rumbling sound I heard from my previous experience came back, and this time it was quick. As soon as the sound crescendoed, I felt the tight squeeze around my neck again. I remember I saw my brother walk right by me to go to my sister's room. This felt like it took forever, but it was probably around 30 seconds to a minute. As soon as the pressure around my neck started to loosen up and the rumbling sound disappeared, I saw my brother walk back from my sister's room to the kitchen. Again, not being aware of the science behind this, I remember thinking, see, this was real. I literally saw my brother walk one way and back the other way after the experience ended. It's been years since I've had an episode, but I've spoken with folks from all walks of life, and sleep paralysis affects everybody. It doesn't discriminate based on age, gender, or where you grew up. It really is a scary feeling, but there are ways to reduce the chances of this happening to you. And if it does happen, here are some tips on how to handle this. Try to sleep on your side, if possible, since most sleep paralysis episodes happen when you're on your back. Try to avoid TV and caffeine before you go to sleep. This normally keeps your mind overly stimulated, which can lead to a disruption in your sleeping pattern. Try to maintain a consistent sleeping schedule. If you're in the middle of an episode and you are aware that this is happening, try to control your breathing and stay calm. Slowly try to see if you can move one finger, then another one, and hopefully this will help slowly ease you out of an episode. Don't trust your eyes. If you see something and you know you are unable to move, then you are most likely experiencing an episode. While sleep paralysis is not dangerous, make sure you speak to your doctor about this to see if there is not an underlying issue that needs attention. Sleep paralysis is a fascinating and often scary topic that's deeply ingrained in cultures around the world. While the horrors associated with it can be overwhelming, understanding its scientific basis and exploring various cultural interpretations can provide comfort and insight. Whether you're seeking medical treatment, spiritual remedies, or simply finding solace in knowing that you are not alone, there are avenues for managing and even overcoming the terrors of sleep paralysis. Remember, knowledge and support are powerful tools in confronting the darkness that sometimes visits us in the night. So, what did you think of today's episode? Have you had a scary experience with sleep paralysis, or maybe something not so scary? I'd love to hear your stories. You can post them on our Facebook page or any of our social media pages. I really do hope you enjoyed today's episode of Itty Bitty Horror. If you have a story to tell and you would like to share it with us, feel free to email us at ittybittyhorror@gmail.com. Also, if you have time and would like to support us, we'd really appreciate a review on the episode, preferably a 5-star review if possible, so we can find other listeners that enjoy small, creepy stories. Join us for next week's episode, where we'll be chatting with a friend of mine and friend of the pod, Natalie. We're going to be talking about our creepy ghost hunting experiences on the Texas-Mexican border. Thanks so much, and remember, even the smallest chills can linger long after the stories end.